Have you ever wanted to share something really interesting about yourself, but the words just get stuck?
Oh, definitely. Like when you start describing your favorite hobby and halfway through you forget the past tense of a verb.
That moment when your brain says, wait, is it swam or swum? And you just stop talking altogether.
That feeling is so frustrating, right? You know what you want to say, but the fear of making a small mistake completely blocks the whole conversation.
We hear this all the time from learners. That fear is what stops people from becoming truly fluent.
It is, and that is exactly what we need to tackle today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mia.
And I'm Leo.
Welcome back to the English Blend. We're here to help you practice listening and speaking naturally.
Today we're diving into the episode titled Talking About Your Hobbies, but really, we're using that topic to talk about how to speak English fluently without worrying so much about making tiny grammar mistakes.
We want you to feel confident enough to share your passion, whether it's painting, hiking, or gaming, without letting grammar worries slow you down.
Exactly. So grab your coffee, forget your grammar textbook for a moment, and let's get started.
Let's start with the basics, Leo. We often talk about fluency and accuracy. What's the difference? Because people often confuse them.
That's a great starting point. Many people think fluency means speaking absolutely perfectly, like a native speaker with zero mistakes.
They imagine someone who never misuses a preposition or forgets a plural S.
But that image is actually describing accuracy. Accuracy is the degree to which your language matches the standard grammatical rules. It means getting the grammar, the verb conjugations, and the vocabulary exactly right.
And accuracy is important, of course, especially for formal writing or exams. But in real life, conversation is different.
Right. Fluency is different. Fluency means smooth communication. It means you can keep the conversation moving without long, awkward pauses. You might make a few small errors. Maybe you say he go instead of he goes.
But the other person understands your message immediately. That's the key metric for fluency. Did you understand what I meant? Yes. Then you were fluent.
We need to remember that the goal of talking is usually communication, especially when you are sharing something fun like your hobbies.
Think about ordering coffee. If you say, I want one small coffee, instead of, I would like a small coffee, the barista understands you perfectly. That is fluent communication.
If you stop for 30 seconds to internally debate if you should use I want or I would like, then you lose fluency, even if you finally say the most accurate sentence.
That brings us to the main problem, the grammar block. Why do learners often freeze up exactly when they need to talk about something they enjoy?
It's usually because of that fear of making a mistake, which often comes back to grammar.
They're prioritizing accuracy over fluency in the moment. They stop speaking mid-sentence to check if they use the perfect tense correctly or if they needed a comma. When you talk about your hobby, say hiking, you start, last weekend I went...
And then your brain interrupts. Wait, should I say I have gone? Is this present perfect or simple past? Oh no, was it I goed? And while you're thinking about the rule, the person you were talking to has started staring at the wall, wondering if you were ever going to finish your sentence.
That stopping in self-correcting, that's what destroys fluency. It breaks the rhythm of natural conversation.
It's like trying to run a marathon, but stopping every few steps to check if your shoelaces are tied perfectly. You slow down so much that you never finish the race smoothly.
And ironically, when you stop thinking about the complex grammar, you often find that the simpler, more natural structures come out easily.
Exactly. Let's focus on those complex feelings around speaking. Sometimes when we are speaking about a personal topic, like a hobby, the pressure is higher.
Because you're invested in it. You want the listener to understand why you love painting or why you spend so much time learning guitar.
And you need to be able to get your point across. That's our first useful phrase today.
Get your point across means communicating your main idea clearly and successfully, even if your language isn't perfect. If I'm telling you about my hobby, gardening, and I say, my plant very green now because rain, I got my point across. You understand the plant grew because of the rain.
That's fluent, low accuracy communication. The listener understands the meaning much more than the method.
We need to teach ourselves that the listener values the message much more than the method.
Think about the times when you have conversations in your native language. Do you ever stop your friend and say, wait, you used the wrong subjunctive mood there?
Never. We focus 100% on the content, and native English speakers do the same thing. They are listening for the story, especially when it's about something fun like a hobby.
I have a quick story that illustrates accuracy versus fluency perfectly. I was talking to a friend from Italy about his hobby, which is running, specifically ultra marathons.
Wow, that's intense.
It is. He was describing a particularly difficult race. He was quite fluent, but he kept making one specific grammatical error.
What was it?
He kept saying, I runned for 20 hours without stop. He used runned instead of ran.
The irregular verb error. Very common.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Did I understand that he ran for 20 hours? Absolutely. Did the incorrect past tense break the flow of the conversation? Not at all.
It just shows that the message overrides the minor error. His fluency, the ability to keep talking about his passion, was high. His accuracy was low in that one area, but who cares?
That's the cultural note right there. Native speakers tolerate mistakes as long as the communication flows smoothly. We are much more forgiving of minor grammatical errors than learners think we are.
That's a huge relief for A2 and B1 learners, especially those who feel they have to wait until they are B2 or C1 to start having real conversations.
No way. Start now. Tell people about your hobbies.
But what happens when you're talking about your new hobby, maybe learning to cook, and you get stuck on a difficult word or phrase?
You know when you just can't remember the word for whisk or saute and you feel like you just hit a wall? That's our second useful phrase. To hit a wall means you suddenly meet an obstacle or a block that stops progress.
It's like running into a brick wall when you're trying to describe something. You stop completely. When you hit that wall, don't stop talking. You need strategies to move around it.
The strategy isn't to freeze and try to remember the perfect word. The strategy is to describe the word using simpler English, using the vocabulary you do have. If you forget the word whisk, you can say, I use the little metal thing that makes the eggs foamy.
Perfect! You got your point across, even though you hit a wall and didn't use the accurate vocabulary word. That shows high fluency.
It shows that you can adopt, which is the definition of conversational competence.
So let's move into the practical steps. How do our listeners shift their focus from painful grammar checking to easy flowing communication?
We have 3 really important tips that helped us when we were learning other languages. Tip 1. Massive input, massive listening. You need to listen constantly.
Not just listening to English textbooks or lessons, you need to consume English content that you genuinely enjoy. If your hobby is watching movies, watch movies in English.
If your hobby is gaming, change the language settings on your games to English. If you love cooking, watch English cooking shows.
Why? Because when you are listening to thousands of hours of natural English, your brain begins to absorb the natural patterns and common sentence structures without you realizing it.
This is how children learn. They don't memorize grammar tables. They just hear the language over and over again.
When you hear, I went to the store 1,000 times, you stop thinking about the rule for the past tense of go. Your brain just knows it sounds right.
It builds an intuitive sense of correctness, which helps you bypass the manual grammar check when you speak.
The more you hear, the less often you will hit that grammar wall when you speak.
Okay, tip 2. Learn in chunks, not single words. This is crucial for fluency.
What does learning in chunks mean, Leo?
Don't learn individual words like I am going to the and store. That requires you to mentally assemble the sentence every time, checking subject-verb agreement and prepositions.
That takes too long, and that's when you start making mistakes and getting blocked.
Instead, learn the whole phrase as one unit. I'm going to the store, or it depends on the time, or that's a good point. These are chunks of language.
These chunks are like pre-made building blocks. When you need to talk about going somewhere, you don't build the sentence word by word. You just grab the chunk and use it.
It greatly reduces the mental load and speeds up your delivery. You suddenly sound much more fluent because you're reciting known phrases rather than constructing new ones from scratch.
Think about talking about your hobby. If your hobby is photography, instead of learning I, take, and photos, learn the chunk. I like taking photos on the weekend.
Or maybe, I'm learning how to edit the pictures. These common phrases are ready to go. They skip the internal grammar check and stop that feeling of hitting a wall.
This is powerful because it bridges the gap between knowing the rules, accuracy, and being able to use them quickly, fluency.
And our final, perhaps most important practical tip for speaking smoothly, tip 3, the 3-second rule.
I love the 3-second rule. It's so effective for fighting anxiety.
Here's how it works. When someone asks you a question or you have an idea you want to share, you have 3 seconds to start speaking.
1, 2, 3, talk.
If you stop speaking for more than 3 seconds to check your grammar, you have prioritized accuracy and you will lose the conversational momentum.
Just say something, even if it's a simple, short answer. Maybe just the subject and the verb.
If someone asks you about your new cooking hobby and you start thinking about the perfect future conditional tense, stop. Just say, I cook new food every day. Simple, direct, and fluent.
The goal of the 3-second rule is to train your brain to prioritize communication, to get your point across quickly rather than waiting for perfection.
Because remember, we established that fluency is communication, not perfection. The conversation partner prefers a quick, slightly imperfect answer over a 15-second pause followed by a perfect sentence.
And what happens if you try to use the 3-second rule and you still mess up the grammar completely? Maybe you confuse the verb tense or use the wrong pronoun.
Then we need to introduce our final phrase. It's a great one for perspective. It's not the end of the world.
I love that one. It's not the end of the world means that the mistake or the bad outcome is not disastrous. It's a minor thing.
You said I runned instead of I ran. Was it the end of the world? No. The person still understood you.
You forgot the word for whisk and had to describe it. Did the conversation stop? No. It's just a small imperfection.
This phrase is key to managing that anxiety. We put too much pressure on ourselves to be perfect. When you make a mistake, acknowledge it quickly, maybe correct it if you can, and move on.
Because even native speakers make little errors sometimes, We stumble over words or correct ourselves mid-sentence. That's natural conversation flow.
The idea is to embrace the messy reality of speaking. You need to speak often enough that making a mistake just becomes a tiny, insignificant event.
So let's revisit the core concept. Talking about your hobbies should be fun. It should be easy. Don't let the grammar rules turn a fun topic into a stressful exam.
When you practice talking about your hobby, maybe you're a photographer, try to use those chunks. Instead of worrying about which preposition comes after interested, just use the chunk. I'm really interested in landscape photography.
When you feel yourself pausing for too long, implement the 3-second rule and just blurt out the first simple sentence that comes to mind, even if it's just, my camera is old but good.
And always focus on whether you were able to get your point across. If the listeners smiled or asked a follow-up question, you succeeded.
If you make an error and momentarily hit a wall, remember it's not the end of the world. Just rephrase your idea simply and keep going.
We talked about massive listening input and learning in chunks to build that muscle memory. This is your foundation for effortless speaking.
And remember, focusing too much on 100% accuracy will prevent you from ever achieving true communicative fluency. Focus on flow, focus on speed, and focus on the message.
Don't wait until your English is perfect to share what you love doing. Start today. Tell a friend or even talk to yourself in the mirror about your favorite hobby using these strategies.
That was a great talk about fluency and accuracy, Leo.
Yes, and we hope this helps all our listeners feel much more confident about speaking English without fear. Keep practicing those chunks and embracing the 3-second rule.
Next week, we're going to discuss useful English phrases for booking travel. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out.
See you in the next episode of The English Blend.